going to go first just to rip the Band-Aid off. And let me just share my screen here. You guys see my screen? Thumbs?
We
Yep.
got
Okay,
it.
great. So this might not be a totally new one to some of you folks. Like I am actually finding in a lot of my conversations, one of the most popular topics that comes up on how to leverage AI is for content creation. And even though we've created a content creation prompt, which I'm happy to share with everyone, which is a templatized version of it to get you started, there's been some cool iterations to how people are using it to create content. So I created this little one. I wanted to actually reverse the show and tell instead of showing you how I built it. I actually wanted to start with showing you what it gives me, and then I'm happy to walk through how I built it. But please jump in and ask questions. So for this little demonstration, I thought, so I created this content generator. I wanted to make it a little specific to a company since all of you have a specific organization that you're trying to create content for. And I come across so many little tiny new tools that are trying to do AI for dot dot dot. So I picked AI for sales, and literally I came across this one just yesterday, Boomerang, another outbound AI agent type platform. But I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. I wonder how they're different. I wonder what they're trying to do. And I thought I'm going to use them as my guinea pig for this. So I'm just going to grab their website. And the reason for that is I think it's just a really great way to make sure we point ChatGPT at the right thing. So I tried doing this by just naming lists of companies, and you'd be surprised how even something as common as like Zoom info, like it takes off and goes and finds something completely different. And so what we're going to do is pretend we're very small. Boomerang looks pretty small. They just got started. Create a marketing one pager for Boomerang. And I'm just going to put the website in here. Now, as this is creating itself, we had a really interesting conversation with someone a couple days ago who is using GPTs to create content. And one of the things that they did was they actually would create their own or take one of an existing one page or something you already like in terms of format or style and upload that and say, make it like this. And so that's another thing to consider here. Now, while this is also going through, I've been playing a lot with using my GPTs with different models, which has been fun too. And I'm sure Pete might have a couple of comments on this, but I know for a lot of folks, the question is like, which model should we use? We probably all end up using the default, but I thought for this audience and particularly for content creation, there's a couple of other models that I've actually found got me there faster. One is as I'm trying to gather information for the content that I'm generating, this O3 model I found has been better. The O4 model is kind of the generic, like generalist type of model. The O3 model is a little bit more of a, think of it as an academic professor. And so what that means is they're searching more specific sources, they're providing sources, it's providing more insight into its thinking and how it's thinking about, the problem or the question that I asked, and then it's giving me stuff. Now, once I get that stuff, if I like what I've gotten roughly, and now I want to write it, I find myself flipping. And Pete, you probably know more about this, but the models are changing so much. But right now in ChatGPT, the model I like most for quality prose or narrative is the 4.5. And so I might take everything I've grabbed in the O3 and then take it over the 4.5 to do my actual stylistic type of stuff. So just something to consider, but don't worry too much about it. If you just got to like use the generic one, it actually gets you pretty close. And then a lot of folks are just adding their own voice and tone over the top. So Boomerang, let's take a look at what it got. So what I think is so cool for content generation for AI is it gets you close on the first try. It's up to you to then say what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and try to iterate on it to get it closer to what might be helpful. And then usually what happens is you still at some point need a person to go in and edit it, maybe overhaul it or change the order and then put it back through the GPT. So can keep that in mind. It's not going to give you perfectly ready to go content right out of the box, but most people getting started is the hardest part. And so editing a document is much, much easier than creating one. And so this has just been a game changer for time savings for a lot of the portfolio folks that we've been talking to. So this one I think was kind of cool. The result, like what's the problem that they solve? what's their solution or fix? This is kind of interesting. I've got some different points here, probably linking to case studies. So we could dig into that more. If you're doing this for your own organization, obviously you know the answers to some of this. I don't know Boomerang as well. I literally found them yesterday. Um, really good ROI metrics, which I think is really cool. And then why CROs and RevOps love Boomerang. This is really cool. Okay, let's see. Oh, and then they've got a great call to action. Okay, this is really cool. So create a 5-step email cadence for, oops, I could spell, for SDRs to use this messaging, something like that. And you'll notice like it's not perfect, right? Like the prompt, I'm not probably articulating it as well as I should, but based on what I get back, that's when I can say things like, I like this, I don't like that, change this. We don't talk like this, those types of things. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, cool. Well, this is pretty neat. So, this is fun. I like the couple of things that I'm just reacting to. Again, this is not your organization, but I like the length of the emails are nice and short. It has organized itself to try and have things that we would want normally in these messages, like having a really good upfront hook, having a call to action. These might not be exactly the ones that we want to do, but could be great. Now, the other thing too is I could feed in, for those of you who have attended other labs, we've done things like generated industry reports or account intelligence or account research reports. I could upload those along with this and have said, take that messaging one pager and what we know about this customer, and then create these emails for me. So I'm gonna stop there for a second. And before I go into the how I made this, I'm just curious, like reactions, thoughts. What would you guys do differently? Critique my GPT.
No, I like just I'm trying to find really fast. Yesterday I saw somebody post like kind of what you talked about one in the beginning, just asking it to be more detailed or more concise or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I'm gonna find that. So that's kind of to your first point. I think in here, like I think sometimes marketers we think, well, we know all these answers and we can write this. But I really like uh checking yourself and reading an outside perspective. And then I think if I was doing this, I would probably also try writing my own and then I would reconcile the two or potentially say like take the best of both or something like that. So I really like this.
I think that's such a great point, Maria. Like most of you are already in flight. You're not necessarily creating from scratch. And so doing something like this can see like, is what I thought we were communicating actually what is being communicated? Like, is that what people and or the GPT are taking away from my message? Oh, that's a really cool idea.
That and this took 24 seconds, right? So if you do it through each of the different GPTs that you might use, so looking at
Yeah.
perplexity and seeing if you can get more pieces of research or seeing if you do it through
Yep.
Claude, if the writing is better or what have you. I will typically do it through a couple of different ones depending on what I'm using it for and how valuable it is potentially to me. And then take those and then have 4.5 do the, hey, like here are three examples of what it could look like. How do we best
Yeah.
blend this to make sure that we're optimizing for X, Y, and Z, right? And then I'll,
I love that.
I
yeah.
have a
I think
couple.
that's great. Yeah.
I have a couple
Go ahead,
thoughts.
Stacy.
One is, I mean, it's sort of obvious, but I feel like a lot of companies don't keep their website up to date with fresh, compelling messaging, and that's all this is. So if
Yep.
it's sort of a forcing function to make sure that you have really compelling positioning. Otherwise, you're going to get a good view into where it's not, and it's time to go fix it. And then my other thought is this is so great for sales. But if you're using it as content to drive search, then you have to be a little careful not to be duplicative because search is becoming less and less happy with lots of repetitive content. So it's great if I'm a salesperson
Yeah.
and I just want to send out a one pager, but if I'm like really trying to pump a bunch of content so that I can rank higher, both on Google and also answer
Yep.
engines, then you have to be careful about that.
I think that's a really great point. Another idea as you were talking, Stacy, that could be really good too is um, because this is so great, particularly O3, because it can be narrowed to just certain sources. You could actually ask it to only look at your website, but then upload additional content that's not represented there, and ask, how would you change my website content to reflect this? That could be really powerful as well. So you could actually get help updating your website.
Yeah, another one I love is please include competitive differentiators. And then and you can tell it like, what are the three of my competitors? And then it'll still
Yeah,
really start to build powerful content that way. And then it's also less
yeah,
duplicative.
I don't have a prompt
love it.
one, but in that same vein, and good morning, everybody.
Hi.
That's it.
What I used to do was we'd take the SDR gong calls and,
Mhm.
and evaluate those to figure out what are the first 2 or 3 questions, the most common questions that people were asking on those calls, and then update our landing page, or sorry, our homepage copy for that. So there might still be another
I love that.
first conversation. How do I make sure that those questions are actually being answered before they talk to somebody?
I love that. That's so cool. Guys, I also wanted to share one other that I did for someone a couple weeks ago, which is, let's say now we have this one pager. I'm just using that as the example for this conversation, but we have this one pager, but we've now decided to verticalize and like get more specific in that way. You can create GPTs that are vertical specific content and say, um, uh, update this one pager for e-commerce, and you could even do it again more specifically to one individual account. But I have found, and I put all my sources into, but I have found that to be such a great way to get a head start. We were talking to someone in the portfolio who's like, well, we've got all of our content, but we've now decided to verticalize, and I have to do this across 6 different verticals, and I'm just like, I've just got a tiny team. Like, how the heck, you could just see them going like, oh God. And it just got them started, and they actually finished it all in 2 weeks. So again, I think fundamentally as humans, we are much, much better at editing things. And so often it's just getting over the hurdle of getting started and the ideation part of it. How can we make this interesting? How can we make it fun? And again, you may not use any of what ChatGPT actually writes for you. You may, but it'll start getting the ideas flowing so that your team can operate faster. And I think that's really powerful. So I don't know if this is even going to work, but I threw it into my e-commerce verticalized content engine, and like, I'm so curious. Engaged. I mean, there's some. It's hard for me to know because I'm not as close to Boomerang, but like, it can be a great way for you to figure out, like, did this get me closer or did it not? Is this worth doing? Is it not? And I think that's really powerful. Okay, let me go back to the other one and just walk everyone through what's in there in case that's helpful. Again, I'm happy to share the prompt behind it, but I think sometimes it's good for a conversation to figure out what's there. Now, I think that there's quite a few folks on here who have been not just to these labs, but have been experimenting quite a bit. So some of this might not be new, but I'm totally open. If you've got thoughts on how I can improve how I'm doing the instructions here, or creative things that have given you a better outcome, I welcome that. So I always start in this case did as well. And by the way, I can't see chat, so feel free to just jump in. I always start with the purpose, like overall, what's the purpose of this GPT? My new favorite thing, and I know we always talk about jobs to be done, but I haven't seen that appear in as many people's prompts that I really like, is your job and my job. And so I would literally say, my job is to create content for this company named blah, 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 blah. Your job is to help me with brainstorming, copywriting, blah, blah, blah. And so that my job, your job in the instructions has actually been giving me much more on target results for the GPTs that I've been running. So that's something to consider. I haven't updated that here yet, but that's been a really recent one where I'm like, wow, that's actually really helping me tune it more. So was somebody else going to jump in? No, okay. It was a grunt of approval, I hope.
Yes, that was my grunt of approval. Sorry. I was
Wonderful,
like,
wonderful.
yeah.
But I think from a content, so we all know kind of we need to have the instructions. We need, if we can have guidance on the inputs and the outputs, that's very helpful. But specifically for content generation, what I think has been helpful for me is telling it what I want the voice to be. And if that's hard, take something that you really like a piece that somebody else wrote or a piece that you wrote, and ask ChatGPT to describe the voice. And that can be a great way to get started to figure out what to put in here. So things like I want it to be authoritative and analytical, so it sounds grounded and like sourced, etc. I might want it to be engaging, provocative. This is where you can put in those nuances of your brand. People sometimes put in things like funny, but professionally so, right? Like things that make this interesting and sound more like you. You can continue to tune this as well as give it examples of your writing or your brand's writing, to be able to get it closer to the output that you want. So the voice one I think is critical from a content generation. The other thing is putting in the target audience. I have found the more I've played with this for different portfolio companies for different use cases, the more you can get crystal clear, like this is where your ICP, this is where your persona stuff goes, this is where the example customers go, so that it can start getting them in its mind who it's writing for. And it can pull in that helper language that is just, hard to articulate, but very, very useful for that content to feel relevant. So the audience, I think, has been a good one. Okay, now I feel like I have to open chat. What are you guys talking about over here? um, Oh, yes. Thank you, Maria. These are good resources. I love that. Okay, awesome.
Did you see,
Okay.
I think somebody just asked, Sydney just asked, oh, Mark's figuring it out. Never mind.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Thank
I'm
you.
on
What
it,
was
Sydney.
what was the issue?
I'm just trying to dump some images in as well, just for sharing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. That would be great. If you've got any helpful resources, and don't forget, like in our Discord, like if you've got tutorials, like I found a great one on which models are better for which types of activities, those types of things, please definitely share those. The other thing here is, I put this in again, AI for sales was the frame, but I'm seeing a lot more people want to figure out how to use ChatGPT to support the thought leadership of your brand and or your founder. And so that's where it's like, what are the buzzing topics and trends that are in and around your organization that you're trying to be a part of those conversations? And so putting focus areas in was really, really helpful to orient and pull in those topics into a variety of the content that's generated. And so again, not necessarily something you can have in every GPT instructions, but certainly in a content creation one, these are the nuances that help the content get stronger. I also pulled in sort of those founder influencer content principles because again, the thought leadership-y thing, we want to make sure, that's pulled in. I pulled in some basic ones here, but this is again where you can tune it to your brand. Voice again, I gave it a little more structure around the outputs, like with hooks and like calls to action, etc. Where possible, if you can give examples of things in the instructions, I find that has given me better outputs. If it's relevant, how and what kinds of sources you like for your organization, for your industry, what kinds of like reports and things like that you might want to do. I always like saying incorporate, citations and screenshots, frameworks, etc. You may not use them all, but they can be helpful for you in the creation process. Let me see what else here is sort of unique to this. Case studies, like anywhere you can include things like that. If you've got them on your website, great. Like you mentioned, Stacy, not everything's on the website. And so, as you're creating the GPT, you can either upload things for a one-time, like reference this case study to create this piece of content, or you could put them into sort of the instructions themselves as uploaded files so that they reference them every single time. But I think that's really helpful. This was one that I started putting in because anyone who's done played around with GPTs for content creation has gotten a lot of those hand wavy statements like AI will change everything. And you're like, oh, that's not helpful to the voice that I want. So I've asked it to like avoid some of those like remarks that are just like, to me, just feel really fake and obvious that there's no depth to it. And so I've asked it to be even more specific, even more tangible, etc. I'm finding more and more that is one of those things that are triggering people to realize that GPT was involved in the writing. There's nothing wrong with it being involved in the writing, but I think it calls and sometimes triggers people's credibility, questionable, you know, sources types of flags. And so I've asked it to not make those kinds of generic statements. So that might be something you consider as well. Um, and that's it. Other than that, I'd be curious if anybody else is doing something like this, what kinds of things you're putting in here, or if you've got a GPT you want to show off. How can I improve this one? Help me.
I like this one thing I found. I went online and I searched for how to like more basically the quality standards, I think, Christina, and how you were saying, often it'll use sort of these platitudes or whatever. And so one thing I did is I just did a Google search and found different people that provided different rules, like don't use these words. And it was just a long list of words. And I either put that in the GPT, or if you just know you want that to be the case all the time, you can actually add it to your profile. And that way any chat will inherit it. But I think I love the fact that you're again, you're molding this to the voice so that it just becomes a better partner.
Yeah. You bring up a really great point on the profile. Like I am starting to dig in more into master prompts, which are like, I don't know if anyone else is familiar here with the fact that you can specify in your overall profile for all of your conversations with ChatGPT. You can do this in Claude as well. I don't know about Perplexity yet, Pete, but they're all racing to add all these things. But you can actually add in these sort of top level, whether it be quality standards, voice type standards, things like don't just tell me what I want to hear. Like you can do these on a very macro level, which can be very helpful to your underlying GPTs. So that's another cool one. I'm starting to experiment with a master prompt, which I hope to share soon, which is on a company level. So there are a lot of executives who, there's always the common refrain of like, we spend so much time in our businesses, we don't always have time to spend on our businesses. What can we do to use GPT as a more strategic partner in thinking about the business and the health of the business and what to do? And so master prompts where you can train it on your business, understanding what your business is, where your core, strategy is taking you, where the gaps or problems are, et cetera, and use that as a way to try and surface more strategic things. And that is on a master prompt level. So that's more of a, here's hoping I can get it to work.
Yeah.
I can share it in a couple of weeks. If anybody wants to be my guinea pig for that, by the way, I'm always looking to make it specific to a portfolio. I would love to talk to you. Cool. All right. I'm going to shut this again. I'm happy to share it.
You want me to share something, Christina?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, let's see. Unless somebody else wants to go, please, somebody from one of our guests. But if not, I'm happy to. Now you're going to take a little bit of a spin into the weird, crazy world of Pete. So this is my personal, ChatGPT, because I haven't done as much over in the scale one. You'll see I've got a bunch in here. Yes, some of them are for games like Clash Royale, if anybody's ever played that game. This helps me build decks. But what I thought I'd show you is this thing I made called a scale image generator. And one of the things that I run into quite a bit was when, building content for scale, I often just want to mock up a slide and get an idea. And what I want it to do is be in the scale brand so that if I show it to somebody, it's less of a leap for them to see it as something coming from scale. And so that's what I did. So this one is just for creating like a hero image that would go up at the top in an article, or could even be for a slide presentation, or whatever you have. So for this example, I don't know, maybe I'll say, the other thing I do is whenever I get into a GPT, I always say like, how do I work with you? And good GPTs are going to give you an answer. They're going to say, oh, just give me a blog post or give me the main idea or, give me something that, you've been working on. And so what I'll do, actually, since it's asking me for that, is I will go into here and I'll just take an excerpt. Actually, you guys see a little bit of a sneak preview on something I'm working on, which is this right here. Let's see. So this is a little article I'm starting to write that comes after our Scale Summit, where I kind of talked about the fact that, a lot of times when we're talking pricing strategy, it's actually a product strategy issue that we need to focus on. And so this is the beginning of an article I'm writing. And so let's just give it to it and see what it comes up with. The original purpose for me for this was to create something that could just give me a hero image for a LinkedIn post. That was the original idea. Okay, so it comes up with, I literally gave it the top 2 paragraphs of the document. I didn't even give it the whole document. So it comes, and pardon me for my voice, I'm dealing with a cold, and so just pardon me for that. So anyway, it gives you a couple of choices here, and I just like to read through these. And I don't know if I like this one, but this one seems interesting. So actually, you know what? I like the value lens. Value is more my style. So I'm just
I'm
going to
so
say,
I'm
what's
so
that?
curious I said I'm so curious what image an X-ray of a problem would be though.
Well, let's do that one then. Yeah, let's go.
I mean, it just visually could be funky.
I like concept 3.
Or the value lens. That's a good one too.
No, let's do that one. So what it does here is, since I told it what I want, now it just goes in and it's writing the prompt. This is the odd part. So it's writing the prompt that I'm going to wind up giving back, that I'm wind up giving back to it to actually generate the image. So here we go. Yes, would you like me to generate this illustration for you now? Now, what's interesting is all these colors are scale colors. So I'm just going to say yes.
And so those are ones you put into your instructions, like here
Yeah,
are the
no.
main colors, the accent colors, all of that.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Perfect. Please image, right? And I don't know if I have to, but it should just do it. Well, that's interesting. Okay. This used to work. Let me try this here. Follow these instructions. I don't know why it did that. I wonder if I told it something weird.
It's all part of the sausage making.
I guess so. Let's see. Oh, it keeps coming back in a loop. All right.
That's okay. When I've generated images, I usually, I don't know why, but I start with generate an image and then according to these instructions. I don't know if that
Yeah.
might help.
Huh. I'll share it here. I wonder if it is working on the background. I wonder if that's a new thing.
Yeah,
We'll have to see.
it does that now. It'll
It does that now. It used to just do it right in
Okay.
front of you. Okay, that's
Yeah,
great to know.
yeah.
So it's probably going to put
Okay.
three of them together. So how about if I should we take a look at this and look at while it's generating, should we look at the GPT itself?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, let's go into the instructions. I'd love to see what it looks like.
Okay, so where is that one here? Scale image generator. Okay. So, you're going to see a lot of similar things. Christina is using really good practices for laying out different areas of the GPT. And you'll see it says, suggest visual ideas based on the provided content. Now, what's interesting, and I think the more important piece, and by the way, I tuned it so it's making a 16:9 ratio, because remember, again, This is specifically a hero image prompt. So it's meant to be broad at the top and, just in that kind of, right. And so right here, this is where we put in the font guidelines. These are all Scales fonts. So what I did is I literally took our here, in fact, I can show you in a minute, but I just took our PowerPoint or Google Slides that lists out our branding. I saved it as a PDF and I said, convert this to text. And it created a text version because all the colors are actually just hex codes. And so it gave me all that information along with style guidelines, right?
Is this, I mean, in your experience, Pete, is this basically like all of the AI for deck generation stuff? I mean, this is the background that a lot of them need in order to get us that level of specificity. I realize they've done a lot more to, bring in best practices, but like if somebody is trying to DIY it, because many folks here are like, well, I'm putting together a deck. I have a set of icons from our designer, but like I just want that good image. Like this is a way to potentially hack that for themselves.
100%. Yeah. And, I didn't do this, but I guess I could have, which is I could have just added the PDF to the GPT document set here. And then in the instructions would tell it to refer to that document and adhere to only those standards for the brand.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. And then just a little bit of a workflow. And I'm just curious, like Anton, that really took me because I use ChatGPT not all the time. I use Claude like all day long. And I just didn't know that it switched like that to make the image in the background like it does a deep research. Oh, and speaking of that, Christina, about the 03 model. Today, whenever you execute a ChatGPT deep research, no matter what you're doing, it always uses the O3 model in the background. So it's not a coincidence that the way you characterized how it replies back to you is exactly what would be expected because it's used for the deep research also.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's like an example interaction. So I think maybe Christina, you covered this, but this is so key to getting results that are good enough for you to use, which is it because sometimes we use these things to create something from nothing, but often we're trying to use it as a way to compress time. And so when we do that, what we want to do is just give it an example of what good or awesome looks like, reverse engineer that, and then tell it, this is what I want you to do. Because in this case, we're really just trying to have it adhere very strictly to standards.
Yeah. Okay. This is cool. Definitely share this prompt. We'd love to share it with everyone. And I put into the chat, guys, like a place where you can share your prompts. I know they're super long, so putting them in the Zoom chat is rough.
Oh, no,
but I think this would be a good one. I'm trying so hard to get better at image generation because that's one area where I feel like more often than not, I don't get what I want, than I do get what I want. So if anyone's got experience in that and wants to share, that would be great. But I do want to make sure we get to Zach. Zach's got one
let's
too.
do it. I'm gonna unshare.
Try to play with that and see if you can show us one.
Yeah, I think
by the end that'd be cool.
So weird that I picked that one and then for some reason the 4.0 image gen was turned off. I have no idea why that would be the case. But maybe it changed underneath me.
Yeah, no worries. Zach, you want to show us yours?
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
let's see.
this one I cannot take credit for, and I put the link right there, but it's from a company called Swan, and they are all over LinkedIn talking about trying to hit 30 million ARR with 3 founders and no team. So that,
I saw that.
Interest. Yeah, and they actually gave a really can I go ahead and do a screen share?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they actually put a really useful GPT out here. So they've got the autonomous business playbook. And I went ahead and asked it, what can I do with you? And so it's got an explainer, what is and what is not an agent, and then what agents is Swan using to get to 30 million ARR and how to build them. So how to build some of these agents and what ones are available. And it'll just walk you right through the whole thing.
Oh, this is cool. This is such a cool find. And that's the thing. You don't have to create everything from scratch yourself. If you find like somebody else has gotten you part way there, this is really cool.
Yeah, and the one thing that really stood out to me as things are changing and I know all these things hit us so often, but it was the LinkedIn post and how last year you would have gotten a PDF. Here's what we're gonna do. Instead, they just give you the link straight to the custom GPT, and that really stood out to me. And so I thought that was really cool. But some of these we're building right now, and just take anyone and it'll walk you right through how to do it.
Oh, this is really cool. So which ones have you built out or that you found most useful?
Well, right now I'm still kind of working on them. So I'm doing a
Okay.
little backlog of work with how to work with make.com and things like that. And there's quite a bit to it, but I think at the end there should be a pretty cool payoff at the end. On the
Yeah.
of a big stack of reading. But yeah, I think the one that my team was most interested in was the hunter, and then things like building a gong summary that goes straight to Slack. Shakespeare is probably pretty cool too. Quite a few of these.
This is a cool find. I've seen this one, guys. I haven't dug in. It's a great reminder, though, that there's probably some GPTs out there that are a great starting point. I find that like I want to own the ability to iterate on them, which has been tricky because when somebody else owns it, we can't see that source instruction.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this is it's all about the ideation. Once you play with them a little bit, then it's like, what else could I do with them and how might I do that? And this is such a great way to get some insight into that to be able to create your own. It's cool. Good find. Really
Cool.
good find.
But
Love
yeah,
that.
thank you.
Um, Anyone else got ones to share? I'd love that. And while you're maybe thinking about it, Sydney, you asked a great question, which is the organization. I find that so frustrating because now I have enough that scrolling through them is a pain in the butt. I don't know how to solve that. Does anyone else? I've tried projects, but that organizes the chats, not the GPTs.
What was the question? Oh, about organizing your chats?
Yeah.
Yeah, how to no
Oh,
keeping their GPT
I think
organized.
it's an evil game they're playing, joke they're playing on us
Horrible.
with that. Yeah, I think the interfaces are going to have to come along quite a bit. But yeah, what I wind up doing now is I go in and I rename them just so that I can
Okay.
scan them more easily. So often it'll just pick a name and it'll name the chat, and it'll name the chat something that I won't actually know to search for. So I just try to rename my chats with a little bit of a keyword in there so that I know that my future self will search for that keyword and then try to find it. That's the best I got right now.
Because I mean, I set it as my default browser now, so everything I do
Mm-hmm.
is there. So it's like every single time which is what, so many times per day.
Yeah.
So do you use the project area versus the chat area?
Well, I do almost everything in projects now, because so much of what I do uh, is building a bunch, and so I need it to hold all that context. So yeah, my if you're doing one-offs, don't build a project. There's a lot of overhead in it. But if you have anything like we were just looking at, like these GPTs, um, there are certain advantages to using GPTs over projects. One of them is, I think, its ability to do the custom actions and all that. And then projects gives you the opportunity to hold all your chats together. So, one of them you can share online. Like, I don't know that you can share like there's no store for projects. Those can get shared within your org, but you can't like share it online, which may not,
Yeah.
be something you care about.
I've struggled with this as well because the more you play with it, the longer the list gets, and that has been really hard. I'm craving them to have some sort of basic file structure. So what I've done with my naming conventions, somewhat for the important ones is I'm either using numbers to bucket them, like one dot and then the name, so that all my ones are together, and like one might represent writing or content creation, or keywords like content colon and then the name, just to try to bucket them, so to create like my own file structure, but it's still a long ass list. That part I feel like they just need to come out with some very basic organization structure. but it's not there yet. Yeah. Oh, what was this? Tell us
So,
about this.
and I think Maria was on that call too, like where it was the former CMO of TriNet, I think, who did
Okay.
it. And so this is kind of the next foray. Like when I'm talking to my AI analyst that covers like all AI, his name's Tim Sanders. You should follow him on LinkedIn.
Tim's
Uh,
amazing.
he's amazing,
He's
and
amazing.
and so he's like already pushing like to AI orchestration, which then takes multiple prompts, multiple agents, and orchestrates them together. And I think that's what this double O product is
Okay.
hoping to be. And so like, as
Hmm.
people start to explore um, more complex workflows, uh, this and we don't have a category for it yet. We're just starting to create one, I think, to
Cool.
capture other products like this. But it was the first time I saw like, oh my God, that looks organized. Like
Yeah,
it was like,
that's amazing.
here's this, like team, and then under each team had all the agents, and then you click in that and it would have like,
Mm.
a string of tasks for that agent.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
think
Okay,
right,
I'm gonna have to
yeah,
check that out.
I think right now, like all of these chat products are total single player, but multiplayer will come, and that's coming. And so I
Yeah,
think we're just in the early days, which is good, right? Like everyone here is on the early fringe, so you're going to be the experts in the future.
yeah. That's
I,
that.
I,
If anyone stumbles on any other hacks for
Yeah,
organizing right now, go
yeah.
ahead.
And Christina, just to help you with yours, like if you go into their templates, they already have like so many tasks already templatized. So you just click
That's
on,
great.
you can double check like what you've already done with what they pulled in.
That's really cool. I love that.
Christina, I was introducing you to that marketer that
Okay.
Sid was talking about. I just have to go figure out his name, but I'm hoping to have him, just like we're gonna have Blake next week, present to the group that use case because I loved it too. But also like Claude has the ability to create some like pages for organizations like pretty easily.
Cool.
Um, I think I sent you one, Christina, didn't I? Where like you could, maybe I'm wrong. I'll send you something, but I think there's some cool
Okay.
ways to like it almost looks like landing pages and you can organize and oh, it was Kevin Morosco from
Okay.
Tebra.
Yeah, I just got it.
Amazing. I would love to see that because I do think the organization of the stuff is coming up for many organizations. And I think that that's something that, I've been pulled into a lot of these go-to-market engineering conversations lately, and I feel like that's going to be the first question everybody asks that person. Is that person's going to have a good structure for potentially keeping that organized, but the organization's not going to understand it. And so there's going to be some sort of elevation of that challenge. And then I think, we will start to see as the platforms evolve, we'll start to see more of that. But that's a lot of what we get from the point vendors today, is we get sort of the clean easy to interact with interface that we're used to, and the easy to create and the easy to keep organized. It's worth noting that like there's real value in that for an organization, even if you can DIY some of the underlying agents.
yeah.
There's value in the how it's presented. So it'll be interesting. But yes, please share all of those. I'd love to see them. So we have about 10 minutes left. Sometimes when we do these, we have some time left for questions. I have our normal discussion sheet, but since we only have 10 minutes, if anybody has any questions they want to ask of the group, like I loved your question on organization, Sydney. I think that's a bigger pain point than most of us are even realizing. But any other questions that people have? What are you trying to play with? Where are you getting stuck? Anything?
I'd
I
be
mean, I
curious.
think it's
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ladies first.
similar to Pete's experience. I was so excited to see it. I still, image generation to me is in Chat GPT is just not, I feel like I need to find a different tool just for that. Has anybody
Yeah.
found something better?
Yeah, so Gemini, which everybody already has access to because everybody has a Google account, even if it's your personal. And if your company is on Google Workspace, you probably have access to Pro version. The Gemini image gen is freaking awesome. It is really, really good. And actually, the later ones now for OpenAI, their ChatGPT 4.0, it's really good too. In fact, it gets words mostly right. The key though is the prompt. It's still very difficult. And so what I found is find an image that you really like and then throw that in there and say, this is the style, the tone, the color, scheme I want, all of that. And then it'll do a much better job.
So I just asked Tim because he does a lot of images because he does a lot of reports. So I put his answer in Pete in the chat.
Yeah.
So his recommendation is you don't tell it to create an image. That's where you get fuzzy
Okay.
lines that don't work. And instead, you say use matplotlib or just say chart in the prompt, and it won't use the image generator. It will use Python code.
Yeah.
So it'll
That's
actually
right.
create better images for you. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
I
try
think,
that. That's a good suggestion.
yes, there's two. So awesome. I love that he said that. It's actually, yes, and it is easier than that. If you simply just tell it to do something in vector, that's easier for people to remember. But there's two different things. I gave it a picture of my dog Coco, and then I said, hey, show Coco wearing a life preserver holding a thing of flowers, and it was amazing. But so it's images versus illustrations, I think, and or vector art.
Art specifically. And there's I'll dump this in the thing that Christina created, but he found a woman that works at OpenAI that is working on another release specifically for charts, because he does all the buyer behavior reports and research, and he works at Harvard, so he's got like a lot of data that he needs to visualize. And so I'll put his prompt in there as well. That's helpful for chart creation.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
OpenAI hasn't released it yet. They're still in beta, and Harvard is one of their testing partners, but it's coming.
That's awesome.
Mark has seen me do this with actually mocking up the entire slide. And so even though my image didn't work today, I do this all the time. In fact, I think the image that I initially created for the session that I gave at our summit, that came right out of Claude. I told it the two graphs I wanted, and then it built a little vector image of that. And so you'll find that if you start asking Claude or Gemini, and actually ChatGPT will do this now too, you can tell it, help me visualize this by creating an interactive standalone artifact or standalone image. And it'll write the HTML, and in your canvas on the right-hand side, it'll be an artifact. And then if you're doing it in Gemini, you can actually share that page on the internet and have people come, visit that. In fact, I could probably pull one up for you guys that I did earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, to add to that, Pete, after you have Gemini or ChatGPT create that artifact in the canvas using HTML, I think you've had success just taking that and porting it into like a beautiful AI or one of those solutions that is purpose built to make really beautiful slideware, and it'll really produce something spectacular. If you haven't checked out beautiful AI, I would encourage it. It's pretty cool.
I used that one, and I used what was the other one? Well, it'll come to me. But here I did this. This
Gamma.
is Maria. This was we were talking about B2B marketing budgeting. Is this showing up? Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. We see navigate the new era.
Yeah. And so I don't think this is what we were looking for, but I mean, check this out. Like, I can go here, go down the marketing benchmark. Here's the budgeting framework for it. It's got other information in here, right? I mean, this is all from Gemini, and if I want, I can come here. Well, this one's telling me copy the contents. The other time it let me actually share it via. It let me share it via the web, and I gave somebody a URL for it. So, I mean, this right here can be downloaded as a single HTML file, which really isn't something that's usable today. I think I think Google's going to start integrating this into Docs. But I mean, it comes up with this very beautiful thing after doing this very deep research report. So
Did
yeah,
you what was your prompt to make it do this for you, other than just the text report?
uh,
What was the language you used to, or did it just do that as a way of showing the report?
I was back here.
No.
This is where I was. So here's the original report from Gemini.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I just did create, and then it gives you these options. You can do an audio
Oh,
overview and share
cool.
it, right?
Yep.
Quiz, infographic. So I did web page.
Okay. That's cool.
And then you can also obviously export it right to a doc and you can share. I mean, this is one of the reason I think, I'm long on Google because of this. I think that they've got distribution that the others don't. It can go native into these documents. Right now, anything you create, you have to still copy paste out of Claude or,
Yep.
out of anything else. But this is really nice. And so it gives you all these different opportunities. So they're starting to take things from Notebook LM and move them over to Gemini and back and forth and, so forth.
That's
There's
really
another
cool.
there's another thing if you want to play around with it. It's an image generator from Google. I know I sound like a Google fanboy. I'm really not. It's just that a lot of their stuff is just really the best right now. There's another image generator that you can play around with for free now because it's in beta, and it's called Whisk.
Like WHI.
Yeah. Here, let me pull it up. And it uses a different model, and it's pretty impressive. It's very kind of weird to try, but so here's Google Whisk. And when you go in the tool, you just say like, give me a hero image for a corporate website, right? And let it go do this thing. And so what you'll notice is this is using a different model. And so it's actually much faster. I mean, have you ever seen images get generated that quickly? Right.
Yeah, that is really fast.
And then you can come in here and you can refine, you can say, make the employees type rapidly on, their keyboards.
That's funny. Really
So
quickly,
then,
while you're doing this,
yeah.
Kate, you mentioned you've had some good experiences with Copilot too. I know we don't talk about it as much, but any other commentary you'd add?
No, I think you have to watch your prompts, but especially when you have
Yeah.
Copilot integrated with Office 365, which we do, you can leverage your brand guidelines, any documentation without any privacy or security issues.
Yeah.
We're still experimenting with whether we go with the enterprise or the basic right now, but it's still lacking from like a slide creation perspective, at least the version that we have, but it's a lot more detailed and it does get words right. So, if you tell it to generate an image of a CMO and it's based off of meeting notes or something, it'll include a logo from Gong and, actually put real words in there. So I've had a lot more success with Copilot for those types of images than maybe
Cool.
GPT and that kind of thing, where it doesn't quite get the words in the image right. So Copilot thing.
Love
that's cool.
You guys watching this one?
She's gone Italian hands typing
I
in.
know. That is it.
He's talking to his clone back there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's so freaky.
That's amazing.
The guy in the middle kind of, anybody know Brian Carden, who was at Eloqua? And
Yes, he
oh
does
my
look
God,
like
that's
Brian.
funny.
I think like just a note, like maybe we do a whole session just on images and how they're used,
Yeah.
bring it into templates, like how you're bringing those images into that. And then I know you probably want to say goodbye to John, but I'm wondering if anybody here is using any of the ChatGPT connectors and have been playing with them. I know they're so new, but like being able to do work right, ask questions of HubSpot or Box or whatever it is, seems like it would be useful. If anybody's doing that, I'd love to highlight that in one of these sessions too. We'd love to
Try
hear
to
about
do
it.
the same brand one because they just announced with Canva, and I bet we can find someone that's doing the Canva connector.
Yeah, that would be
My
so
brand
fun.
people.
I think that would be so cool. That's a great idea. I
Yeah,
love
I'd
that.
like to learn a little bit about that too. I'm
Just
in
released
the
yesterday.
market. I'm in the market for automating some of that stuff. So yeah, I'd love to see something that can really push it right all the way through.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
it'd
guys
be
come
cool.
across anyone or buddies? Like, let us know. Like, we've got the next one or two. I think we've got our presenters locked, but I think this image generation is something we can all get better at. And it's because it's just easier to type and iterate. And I think that for a lot of people I talk to, when they go, oh, I like this image, I can't necessarily describe what it is that I like about it or its style. And so I think, figuring out how we get our visual taste and interpretations into a way we can iterate, I think it would be a really helpful skill set for all of us. This is great. You guys were over time, but like I'm happy to hang out a little bit more. Wait, the real hero of the session, Craig glasses. I agree. They're for the 4th of July. He's patriotic. Um, I'm so glad you all could join again. We'll see
Yeah.
you again in 2 weeks. Again, bring ideas, bring things to share. We'd love to hear it.